Hello and welcome to another session of Level Up. So what we're going to go through today is just some Q&As that have been sent through from some clients, and they're often questions that get asked by the majority of clients. So I thought I'd do a session and we could just run through those. So let me jump in and share my screen. So the very first question we have is, why does my weight fluctuate so much? And because I'm getting a lot of you to weigh yourself several times a week, you'll see that sometimes the scale weight does actually fluctuate quite a bit. This can cause a lot of unnecessary stress, especially when you're going through that journey of wanting some weight loss. And it does have a lot to do with lots of other factors that don't actually have anything to do with fat gain or fat loss. So a couple of things that can be going on is hormones and menstrual cycle. So I know for myself that if I'm in the middle of the week of my period, my weight can actually jump 2 kilos, which is insane, because I know that that's not fat gain, but it's my body holding on to inflammation, holding on to water. It's crazy how the female body works, and the fact that it can fluctuate so much in the week that it can become very motivating, because you're like, I'm doing everything right and the scales are fluctuating. Like, why is this happening? So I just want you to understand that there are lots of things that can happen which can make the scale fluctuate. So definitely hormones and menstrual cycle. Inflammation from training. So if you've had a really hard training session, you will be quite inflamed and you can be holding on to some extra weight there, and that will increase the scale weight. Depending on your salt intake, if you have high levels of salt intake, your weight's going to increase. Carbohydrates and digestion timing. So if you've actually had like a big meal that has extra carbohydrates, your weight is going to go up, because every gram of carbohydrates we have pulls 3 grams of water into the muscles as well. So weight then is going to increase. Digestion. So depending on how late you've eaten in the evening, that digestion process can take a little bit longer, and you might then wake up being a little bit heavier just because your body hasn't had time to digest the food that you've had the night before. Same goes for the type of meal that you have the night before. So if, one night during the week you decide to have like a different meal to what you're used to, that can also affect scale weight the next morning, just because of that digestion timing. So, quality sleep affects your weight. So if you have a really good sleep and weigh yourself the next day, you'll notice that the scale weight will be slightly down. Stress levels definitely affect the scale weight. So yeah, that's a big factor to think of as well. So these are things that I take into consideration when you do your check-ins, but also this is why we track weight several times across the week, so we can get that average reading across the week. Because imagine if you only weigh yourself once a week and that happens to be your really high day, you're going to think that you're not making any progress. Whereas actually, if we take the average across the week, you may have been down 0.5 kilo. So also switching to strength training. So your weight loss might actually stall for a little bit. So if you've only ever been doing, say, like circuit training or walking or like jogging, and then you switch to strength training, your weight loss may actually stall, because you are gaining muscle, but you're losing fat. So the scale weight will stay the same. So this part here becomes really challenging for a lot of people, especially in that recomposition goal. So if you're wanting to change the way your body looks, but you want to do that by getting stronger and gaining muscle, the scale weight is going to become a factor that is not something that we're going to look at too heavily as progress. It's definitely not going to be the be all and end all when your goal is to gain muscle. Okay, so that's why we do many other factors when it comes to like tracking progress. Try not to let one weigh-in determine your mood or your success for the day. So if you wake up and your scale weight has gone up, don't go like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to just have a really like off day today. No, there is a reason why the weight is the way that it is. So we get so hung up on that number, but there are all these other factors here that can come into play. Okay, so that's why we track all these different trends over time. We also do have another level up session, which is how sleep affects the scale weight. So that's a really good one to look at as well, if you want to like dive straight into like how sleep actually affects that. All right, so next question. What's better for fat loss, cardio or weights? I love this question. I get it all the time. So it's like, well, shouldn't I be doing cardio to lose weight? So honestly, they actually both have real value. Okay. So they both bring certain elements to your fitness journey. All right. So my opinion is that the best approach is a combination of both of them. However, if your long-term goal is body composition changes, which means, looking toner because you've got more muscle and you're looking leaner, then strength training is definitely your priority. It doesn't mean that you don't do cardio. It just means that your strength training is your priority. So with our strength training, we're building muscle, and that's going to give us that nice lean look. So that's improving our body composition, increasing our functional strength, and it does support long-term metabolism. So I've touched on this before, but the more muscle we have, the more energy we actually burn at rest. Okay, so it means the more food that you can consume, because just when your body is resting, so just even like myself right now in this state, my body burns more fuel because there's more muscle. Cardio, however, is really important for your cardiovascular fitness. All right, it does help to burn that extra energy. It supports recovery and it's so good for mental health, but it also really does help to boost that heart health. So I'm a big fan of both of them, and the cardio can be whatever cardio you enjoy doing, right? So whether that's a HIIT class, going for a run, doing your own HIIT session, cycling, kayaking, like anything that's going to get your heart rate up, it's going to be so good for your cardiovascular fitness. But strength training should definitely be your priority. So if you get to a day of the week and you're like, oh, I can only fit in one session, definitely do your strength training, because that's where you're going to get more bang for your buck. However, cardio is important. Even adding in, 10-minute HIIT session, a couple of times a week is fantastic. Or, going for a steady state run. There's so many different forms of cardio you can do. They both have their place, but like everyone I work with is there to, build muscle, have that, the long-term body composition goals. So yeah, strength training is priority. Then we add in the cardio. How do I stop snacking at night? More often, it's a signal that something earlier in the day just wasn't quite right. So before trying to be stricter, you're going to have a look at, why did that actually happen? Why am I actually feeling like I need to snack at nighttime? So a couple of those common triggers are under eating during the day. So you actually undereat during the day and you get to nighttime and your body's like, I need more food. So that leads to that snacking at nighttime. You're stressed or you're emotionally eating. Okay, so a lot of people at nighttime will sit down. That's when they start to wind down. Emotional eating can become quite big then. All right. Then habit and routine. It could be just the fact that you are so used to sitting in front of the TV and having something to eat, or whatever activity it is that you do at nighttime, and you associate that with having something to eat. A lot of people fall into the trap of having dinner and then, I need to have dessert after. And that just becomes a routine. Whereas you're not actually eating because of the signals your body's giving you. It's more out of routine. Poor sleep, actually, back on that, if you do have dinner and then go, oh, yep, now time for dessert, actually stop and think about, am I actually hungry? Do I actually need that? Or am I just doing it out of, well, this is what I've always done, and it's just a habit, okay? Because so many of the things we do in our lives are based on habits, all right? We just do them automatically. Poor sleep quality, so much comes back to poor sleep. So if you've had poor sleep the night before, you will be hungrier throughout the day. It is just your body's, physiology that will tell you, okay, you need to eat more. Okay, you're eating more to get that energy. All right. Restriction mindset. So the more you tell yourself you can't have something, the more you want it. So even if it's like, okay, I really, really love chocolate at night time after dinner, it might be the fact that, okay, you just have like 1 or 2 pieces of chocolate. So then you're not in that complete restriction mindset. Once you've had that little bit, satisfied, okay. And then over time, you can cut that back. If you restrict everything completely, then that restriction mindset will actually make you want it more. Okay. And then you might actually be doing it out of boredom as well. So, think about, when you're having that snack, am I eating it just because I'm bored? Am I eating it just because it's habit and always been in my routine? So really be quite mindful and reflective of why am I doing that behavior. So what we want to look at instead is, has your protein and your fiber intake been adequate throughout the day? Okay, have you hit those protein and fiber targets, which is what generally will keep you full and stop you having those cravings at nighttime? Have you had really good meal timing throughout the day? So have you had enough space in between your meal so that your insulin levels and everything can fluctuate the way that they need to, and you're not trying to like jam it all in of a nighttime? Again, your sleep and stress levels, and just making sure you're adding in that structure during the day, so then we don't have all these follow-on effects of a nighttime. So I've said down here, sometimes adding more structure earlier in the day actually helps reduce the overeating later. So feed yourself well up front, and the late night cravings often will take care of themselves. So yeah, you'll be amazed at how much having structure during the day can really set yourself up at nighttime for not having some of these cravings. Okay, so the next one is, do I need to track calories forever? It's definitely not something you need to do forever. So tracking is just a tool, not something that you are going to need to do forever. So at the moment, I don't track because I've tracked for years, and religiously I've tracked food for years. So I know right now I'm in my maintenance phase. I know what I need to eat every day to be in maintenance. So I'm not actually logging right now. I will go back to logging, especially when I go into a mini cart or I need to increase my calories or whatever that is. I will go back to tracking. So there will be a time where you don't always have to track. So what it's there for right now is to build awareness. So you're on this journey, weight loss, recomposition goals. So it's really useful to help build awareness. It should be there to serve you, but not control what you're doing. Okay. So what tracking actually teaches you is portion size in context, protein intake habits, and mindless snacking patterns. So when you're logging, you're actually a lot more mindful of what you're eating because you know you're going to log it. All right. So it does really help you with those portion sizes as well. So when you're preparing a meal and you go, okay, my meal has 150 grams of chicken, you weigh out that 150 grams of chicken and you're like, oh, that's usually less than what I would have, or that's usually more than what I would have. And you just become really aware of the sizes of your meals. And then how much, protein is in that meal, how much carbohydrates is in that meal, etc. I always found when I first started, it was really useful because I was like, oh, there's actually like quite a lot of protein in that meal, or wow, I didn't realize how much fat was in that. So yeah, it does actually help you become very aware of the food that you're putting. Definitely start off with tracking and see how you go, and we can have that conversation around whether it's really helpful or whether it actually starts to become an obsession. But that's something that we can have a chat about. But it really is there as a tool for you to become aware and educate yourself around what's in food, and portion sizes, and also to be really mindful of food choices. Okay, so this one, why do I struggle to stay motivated? Basically, because you're human. So motivation is not constant. So it comes and it goes for everyone, no matter how experienced or disciplined you are. So motivation for me comes and goes, all right? So there are stages where, life is busy, there's lots going on, especially being a mum, that we have so many plates that are spinning, and yeah, motivation can definitely drop. So biggest thing that I want to get across here is that the people who get results, they're not actually more motivated than what you are. Okay. They've built the routines and the habits that keep them going, even when motivation is low. So for me, like I get up at 4 o'clock every morning. Okay. Now that's just part of my routine. Do you think I want to get up at 4 o'clock every morning? Fuck no. Like it's early. And if I've gone to bed a little bit later, like, man, it's hard some mornings. But I have built that structure and I've built that routine and I just do it. So it has nothing to do with how motivated I am because, yeah, I'm motivated for my next goal, but there are times where that motivation is low because of life stuff, and everyone has, that life stuff. So, yeah, it's really around structure and routine, okay? And it's with everything we do in life, the more structured we are and the more routines we have, it really does just fall into place. So, yeah, here I've got the wrong question to ask yourself is how do I stay motivated forever? Okay, because we're not going to stay motivated forever. We're human, motivation comes and goes. The right question to ask yourself is how do I keep showing up even when I don't feel like it? Okay, so that's where consistency is built. Showing up anyway, even when you're not motivated. And that consistency will just keep building. All right, so hopefully that answered that question because, yeah, motivation is not always there for everyone. Not even the people that you think are, they just keep going and they just keep doing it. It's not always motivation. It's that routine and it's that habits. Okay, what supplements do I actually need? So really, most people don't need a full cupboard of supplements. The truth is, no supplement will compensate for shaky foundations. Here's what's actually worth considering. So I did have a whole level up session on supplements, which will be really good for you to go back and watch. But the top ones that I, recommend, protein powder, so if you're really struggling to hit your protein intake, make sure you get some protein powder. That will really help. Creatine monohydrate, everyone should be on this. 5 grams a day for muscle saturation. And if you do want to then have creatine for cognitive benefits as well, 10 milligrams a day is fantastic. 10 to 15, really good for that extra cognitive benefit. So people often ask, what does creatine do? Creatine saturates in the muscle and it actually gives the muscle energy to perform in the workout. Okay. In the brain produces its own creatine and it does help with like focus and memory and, all those cognitive abilities that we need for brain functioning. So 5 grams a day, saturate the muscle. Anything over that helps with cognitive functioning in the brain. Okay. So electrolytes are amazing, useful for hydration, especially in Townsville where it's really hot. So, yeah, perfect for, I have it every morning when I wake up. So I wake up, first thing I do is have electrolytes in a huge, like 600 ml shaker. And yeah, I'm good to go. Don't need any pre-workout. I'm ready to go for my workout with my electrolytes. And then magnesium, okay, helps with sleep, helps with like over 300 processes in the body. Absolutely amazing. So yeah, they're always my top 4 supplements that I recommend. But in saying that, if you don't have the foundations right, this don't mean shit. Okay? Get your training right, get your sleep right, stress, and nutrition. Okay? Foundations right first. I feel embarrassed in the gym. How do I get over it? This is such a big one. Like, especially ladies. So many ladies prefer to go to a women's only gym because they feel less embarrassed, less intimidated. But I can guarantee you, people are at the gym and they're focusing on themselves and they're focusing on what they're doing. And I'm absolutely with you here with this question because I never used to feel confident going into the gym. I was always worried about people looking at me, people judging me, people thinking that I'm doing the wrong thing and why is she in here? Like, all of those things. And I totally get it. It can be very daunting. However, there is a massive shift in gym culture. If you find an amazing gym to train at, everyone is welcome. Like when I look around the gym, I love it because, you've got young people coming in and getting into training. You've got like much older people that are now like, getting into, strength and resistance training, which is incredible. And then like all in between. So everyone's on a different journey. And really, like, everyone's there to do their thing. And it might feel like everyone's looking at you and judging you, but I can guarantee you they're not. And if there is that person, they're a minority. So yeah, first thing is just show up. All right. The hardest thing is walking through the door. So confidence doesn't come first, action does. So if you go with a friend or a trainer, it's not actually as daunting as going by yourself. Do go by yourself. The best thing is to just walk in there. Okay. So that's what's going to build that confidence. So confidence isn't going to come before that. You've just got to get in there. You've just got to do it. You've got to put yourself out of your comfort zone. And the more you do it, the more it's going to be comfortable. The next thing is build familiar. I hate saying this word, familiarity. The more you show up, the more that environment becomes normal and it becomes comfortable. Even if it means you go in there and you pick 3 or 4 machines, and every time you go in there, you use those same machines, you're going to feel comfortable, and then you're going to feel more comfortable to start venturing and having a look at other machines, other areas of the gym. Just get familiar with a couple of little things and then start to venture out. And then as your skills grow, your confidence grows as well. So when you think about it, every expert in that gym was actually a beginner at one point. And none of them looks at anybody else and puts them down. Okay? Because, like, even myself, I never used to look like this when I first went to the gym, but I've built that. And now when I see new people come into the gym, I get excited because I know the journey and I know the growth. And yeah, just biggest piece of advice is just show up, just go in there. It's going to feel uncomfortable, but the more you do it, the more you're going to feel comfortable. And if all else fails, call me and I will go in with you and I will show you around and I will teach you how to use the machines, and then I can guarantee you will know exactly what to do when you walk in there. All right, what's the best diet for fat loss? Oh God, I get this one all the time. So the best diet is the one you can actually stick to. All right, not the really bad diet that you've probably been on in the past, but the one that you can stick to. All right, so that's why if you work with me with nutrition, we talk about what's your daily food intake look like, what's your non-negotiables that you really don't want to miss out on, and we incorporate that. And how many meals a day do you like? Is it 6 or is it 3? Let's work around that, because those things are really important. Someone who likes to graze all day, and you then get given a meal plan that's a big breakfast, big lunch, and a big dinner, that's not going to work for you. Okay, it's got to be something that works with your lifestyle and what you can stick to. So yeah, fits your lifestyle, includes foods you enjoy. No food needs to be permanently off limits. If you like a bit of chocolate, okay, let's add that in and let's work everything else out around it. If you'd like to have a meal out every week, sweet, let's work that in, let's work around it. Okay, depending on your goal, and if you wanted to step onto a bodybuilding stage, obviously being in that prep process is going to be a little bit different. But for that general lifestyle, client, we really need to make it realistic. We need to make it a bit flexible. But the biggest thing is supporting this consistency. All right. So consistency over time, including some of these things, is what's going to help you get to your goal. If you're on a diet that, keto, plant-based, vegetarian, if you want to have a look at flexible dieting, all of those other things, we can definitely talk about that. We can incorporate that into your plan. But in general, it is that, tailoring it to make it fit your lifestyle and sustainable for you. What if I keep starting and stopping? All right, stop trying to restart perfectly. How many times have you said to yourself, I'll restart on Monday. I'll start when life comes down. Okay? The problem is life is always going to be busy. And right, if we keep waiting till Monday, that gives us that permission to fuck up for the rest of the week, because we're like, okay, I'll start again on Monday, and then it'll happen again. Okay, so we need to stop waiting for that perfect moment. Consistency is built through imperfect action, not perfect timing. All right, being consistent is going to help you reach that goal. So we need to stop waiting for that perfect moment, stop waiting for Monday, stop waiting for the 1st of January, stop waiting till things settle down, okay, because it's never going to come. The right time is always now. All right, so in the morning, for example, What if I went to the gym and I came back and, oh, there's birthday cake in the fridge. I'm going to have a piece of birthday cake. Oh, shit, I've just effed my whole day. No, that mindset is not conducive to you reaching your goals. Yeah, you may have stuffed up in the morning, but that doesn't mean the rest of your day needs to completely blow out. Okay? We don't need to have this all or nothing mindset. We don't need to have that keep stopping and starting. Okay, I've done that before. I've made a cheesecake and it's been in the freezer, and I get home and I'm like, oh man, I really want some of that cheesecake. I have a piece of cheesecake. I'll feel like shit afterwards because, yeah, I probably shouldn't have had that much. But then I'm like, all right, that's not going to ruin the rest of my day. I'm not going to then say I'm going to start again on Monday. No, start again straight away. Okay, that was an imperfect action, but it doesn't mean that I need to ruin the rest of the day. Okay, so you need to ask yourself a different question. What's the next small thing I can do today to get myself back on track? What's the next small thing that I can do to help me reach my goals? Okay, change that mindset rather than going, nah, I'm done for the day. I'll start again tomorrow. Okay, we need to stop self-sabotaging and going, okay, I've made one bad mistake. I need to just scrap the rest of the day and start again, or I need to start next week. Okay, so small actions beats no action at all. All right, a 20-minute walk beats waiting for the next 90-minute workout plan. Progress compounds over time. Okay, so it includes workouts, nutrition, anything else we're doing in life as well. All right, if I'm like, oh God, if I go to the gym now, I'm only going to get half an hour in. I won't bother going at all. You know what? That half an hour is better than nothing. Oh, I've got 20 minutes to go for a quick walk. I may as well do that rather than not going at all. Okay, all those little things add up. So we don't want to keep stopping and starting based on like imperfect decisions and imperfect actions that we make at that time. Yeah, own it. Stuffed up. That was a bad decision. All right, what am I going to do for the rest of the day or the rest of the week that's going to keep me on track? Okay, it's reframing that mindset. Now, what's the biggest mistake people make with their goals? This kind of comes back to that, trying to change everything at once. All right, it's the single most common pattern that I see, and it's why people burn out and they never see the real results. All right, you've got that burnout cycle. You over-restrict food. You train too much too soon. You expect instant results. You chase motivation instead of habits. You pursue perfection over progress. All of these things that I just touched on is the reason why people don't reach their goals. Okay, there is a better way to do it. Start with 1 or 2 changes, which most of you have already done and nailed it. And you move on to more changes and more changes. Build habits that fit with your life. You focus on consistency and you trust in that compound effect. Okay, so if you get used to going for a walk 3 times a week, or start off with 1 time a week. Okay, if you've never been, don't walk at all, once a week. Okay, then that'll compound. You'll do it twice a week, and then you'll hit your goal 3 times a week. All right, those compounding effects over time, those building that habits that fit in with your lifestyle, getting up half an hour earlier to get to the gym to have that extra 10 minutes of HIIT at the end of your session. Okay, build that habit into your lifestyle. Right, you need to think about what it is that you want and what is your goal. How are you going to get there? What are these tiny little habits and these mindset changes that are going to get you there? Right? And that's what you need to think about. That's what I think about every day when I get up. My alarm goes off and I'm like, yep, okay, this is a habit. I get up, I do my thing, do a bit of work, go to the gym. I build those habits that make me reach my goal, that make me feel good, that help me have a healthier lifestyle, become a really good role model for my kids, a role model for you guys. All right, I'm not saying that shit's not going to happen, because it does, and then we just work around it. But these are the things that we do. Progress every day. All right. Okay, it all comes down to you. All right, I can guide you. I can program your nutrition and your training. I can educate you, and we can have our community that support each other. But ultimately, you are the one who has to decide to show up consistently. Push through that low motivation stage. Consistency is built when motivation is low, remember? We're going to build new habits. make different choices, be patient, and make sacrifices. All right. I love this. Growth rarely happens inside your comfort zone. Okay. And I know that this is not everyone's goal, getting on stage, but by golly, I'm telling you, I got there because I wasn't inside my comfort zone. All right. Now, everyone's goals means they need to get outside their comfort zone and push themselves a little bit. All right. And trust me, you will feel so much better for it. All right. It's those little changes over time that make those big changes at the end. All right. The strongest, healthiest version of yourself is built through small, consistent choices made over and over again. All right, so hopefully that answers some of your questions. Hopefully that gave you a little bit of motivation to keep going. Got any more questions, always send them through. All righty, see ya.